Tusk, check in.
Two's here.
Beautiful weather. Let's get the ATIS.
Roger.
5 aircraft type on first contact. Nellis Air Force Base Information Hotel. Time 2255. Winds calm. Visibility 1 mile in rain. Selling 500 overcast. Temperature 23. Dew point 20. Altimeter 3005. ILS runway 21 left in use. Departures on 03 left and 03 right. Acknowledge receipt of information hotel and advise aircraft type on first contact. Nellis Air Force Base Information Hotel.
Have you got the ATIS yet?
This weather is really odd. 1 mile viz, low 70s and rain. Not something we typically get to see around these parts, especially this time of year.
Yeah, no kidding. I'll take it though. I've always enjoyed flying in this type of weather. I take it that you got the ATIS info then?
Oh yeah, sorry, I've got it. Hey, one thing I forgot to cover before, and I think we should work on to make your life easier. Let's go through working the radio in preset mode. How does that sound?
Sounds like it's gonna save me a lot of knob turning. I'm in.
Right on. I know you know this one from the A model, but let's refresh your memory. It's really straightforward. So, if you look at your radio panel, you'll notice that each radio has a small knob with a little window next to it. This is your preset selector knob.
Okay.
Now all that you need to do, and it works the exact same for each of the radios, is to set the desired frequency, select the desired channel you want to assign to it using the knob, and then press the load button.
Alright.
Repeat the process for all the frequencies that you want assigned and for all of the radios. Oh, and if you're thinking where is the load button on the uniform, it's hidden under the load preset cover.
Yeah, nothing has changed.
Indeed. Okay, set the radios up as you'd like, and let me know when you're done.
Raj, go ahead and push ground.
2. And the before taxi portion of your startup checklist, between your speed brake and SAS checks, you'll see the spot for testing the MRFCS. Since we are going to be engaging it today, we will need to accomplish checks for it. Go ahead and proceed with your startup as you would, and when you're finished, we'll knock that out.
Press with a normal startup and we'll do the MRFC check before we taxi out, correct?
Hey, firm, let me know when you got a good jet, and we'll go from there.
Roger.
Pull up, pull up. Altitude, altitude.
Lead's got a good jet.
Nice. Okay, again, the MRFCS check would have normally been done in the before taxi section. We skipped it and are coming back to it now so that you and I can go over it together. With that being said, let's go ahead and have a look at that process. Let me know when you're looking at the manual reversion flight control system ground check procedure on your kneeboard and you're ready to proceed.
Ready.
Right on. As you can see in a nutshell, we're going to trim all the way to the left or right, then enable manual reversion. After that, we'll make sure we have no hydraulic pressure. We'll check the rudders, aileron tabs, and we'll verify the normal and emergency trim for the elevator. The last thing we'll do is cycle the brakes and make sure our brakes work and we're holding good pressure in the accumulator. Providing that everything is good, we'll return the flight control system to normal, make sure that our hydro pressure returns to normal, we've got no warning lights, and our ailerons return to neutral. And lastly, we'll do another control check. How does that sound?
Sounds pretty long, but easy enough. Chief, ready MRFCS check.
Jumps are in. You're clear on flight control. Nose down. Nose up. Elevators are neutral. Standing by on the rudders. Rudder right. Rudder left. Rudder center. Standing by on the aileron. Left tab down. Right up. Left tab up. Right down.
Here's the trim.
All controls are clear. on emergency trim. Trimming nose down. Stop. Ready nose up. Trimming up. And stop.
Here we go on the brakes.
And ready on the brakes.
Raj.
Brakes are on. Brakes off. Brakes on. Brakes off. Brakes on. Brakes off. Brakes on. Brakes off. Brakes on. Brakes released. Stand by. Let me check the accumulators for you.
Sweet. Standing by for return to normal flight controls mode and controls check.
Alright, sir. Both systems look good.
Roger. Flight controls clear?
All controls are clear. Ailerons up. Trim neutral.
Raj. Ready flight controls check. Controls clear?
Controls clear. All flight controls looking good.
Lead's got a good jet.
Sam. Okay, going over the plan again for today. First, we're going to get out of here and push into the NTTR. We'll probably head up to Elgin and Sally to work with the manual reversion. After that, we'll push north to Caliente and meet our tanker Shell. He'll be in the 641 Alpha track in that area. We'll grab a little gas, and with that, we'll then look at heading back into Nellis and shooting an ILS approach.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it should be. We'll more than likely fly the Mormon Mesa departure out of here, and we'll be using the ILS approach for 2-1 left. We've not flown the Mormon Mesa 6 departure yet, but you should have it built into your flight plan, so just follow the waypoints. Or, if you want to be a badass, pull up the TACAN and fly it from the plate.
Sounds good. I think I've got it in my kneeboard.
Yeah, it should be in there, and you should also find an ILS approach plate for 2-1 left in there as well. Additionally, you should see waypoints in the flight plan for all the approach fixes. Do you have waypoints in there with shit like Razzi, Sheet, and Chris towards the end?
Give me 1 second, I'll check. Okay, yeah, it looks like I've got a full flight plan then.
Good deal. I know it looks like one hell of a flight plan compared to what we're used to, but something like 10 of those waypoints are used for the approach by itself. And we'll talk more in depth about that stuff when the time comes.
Raj.
Let's pause here for a bit and have a quick chat about TACAN navigation and stuff. We'll tie some of it into our departure plate since it makes good sense. I know we went over some of this shit early in your training, but we're going to go back through some of it and also talk about some new stuff since it's going to be up to you to navigate the jet through this soup. Ready to proceed?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Right on, man. Alright, on the right console, you have the TACAN operation and control panel. While you're eyeballing it, you'll see the ILS control panel just above. The TACAN panel is pretty straightforward. At the bottom of it, you'll find two channel selector switches, which you'll use to, you guessed it, select your channel. In between them, you can see the test button. To the right of the channel selectors, we have a mode dial with 5 different settings, and in the upper portion, we have the channel display window.
Sounds simple enough.
Yep. Okay, so for those 5 selections on the mode dial, off is just that, off. REC is receive only. If we're in receive only, we can get bearing, course deviation, and station ID only. No ranging information will be supplied. TR is transmit in receive mode. In this mode, we will get everything that we had in receive only mode, and we'll add ranging information to it. When we get into doing our fence checks, we'll talk about emitters and TACAN being one of them. When we fence in, we'll want to ensure that we're not in either TR mode and actively transmitting. We also have 2 different air-to-air modes, AAREC, which is used for finding takers, and AATR, which is used for range and bearing information between 2 aircraft. Sound good?
Yes, sir. Well, quick question. Why don't we use AA transmit receive so we also get range to the tanker?
We don't want to use transmit receive because if everyone's using it, the tanker's TACAN may go Tango uniform. So, in an effort not to overload it, we just use receive only. If you need ranging info, you can pop it over into TR real quick, get the distance, and slide it back over into receive. Make sense? And ready to move along?
For sure, for sure. Let's continue.
Alright, how about we go ahead and get the TACAN on and have a look at the Las Vegas VORTAC at 116 X-ray. So, using the left channel selector, change the first 2 numbers to 11, and then using the right channel selector, dial up a 6. I forgot to mention it earlier, but on the right channel selector, you'll find a bezel at the bottom of it. Turning that bezel at the bottom will change that X-ray into a Yankee. Have a go at that and then put the mode dial into position and let me know when you're ready to move on.
Alright, ready to proceed with training.
I forgot to mention the volume knob on the top right of the TACAN panel. Turning that knob down will bring the volume of the TACAN down, or you can use the TCN knob on the intercom panel over on the right console. Left console. Pushing in the button turns it off, and turning it lowers or raises the volume. You can use either, it's up to you. Hang with me. I'll eventually get my shit together today.
I hope so. I'm supposed to be learning from you.
Yeah. On that note, going on to the NMSP to press that TACAN button, and you should see it illuminate. Verify that for me, please.
Alright, I've got TCN illuminated.
Excellent. So now our HSI should be tied to the TACAN system. Have a look at the HSI and verify for me that bearing 1 pointer is pointed roughly at 200-205-ish. We should also see a white line in the range indicator window on the HSI indicating that we do not have ranging data.
Yep, that's what I'm seeing.
Perfect. Cool. For what we're going to be doing today, we're really just going to be concerned with flying radials and our distance from these TACAN and VORTAC stations. On the topic of TACAN and VORTAC stations, they're basically the same thing. TACAN's for the military and VORTAC is civilian VOR DME. In the A-10C, we have the ability to use both of them. On the Mormon Mesa 6 departure, we're going to be looking for the Nellis outbound 032 radial initially. Then we'll bring the distance factor into it and then transition over to a 215 inbound radial for the Mormon Mesa VORTAC. I know you're aware of how to fly radials and all that, so I'm not going to beat it to death, but we'll cover some of the aspects of doing so using our HSI. Sound fair?
Yeah, man, that sounds great. Let's press.
The first thing to know about radials is they are a reference from the TACAN VORTAC station to you, not the other way around. With that said, starting with where we're going to be picking up this departure procedure, the first thing we're going to worry about is intercepting and flying that 032 degree outbound radial from Nellis TACAN. To ensure that we've got that nailed down, we need to set our course on the HSI to 032 using the course set knob on the lower right. As we turn this, we should see the course needle spin towards 032, and you should also see the numbers change in the course selector window. Go ahead and get the course for 032 set and give me a heads up when you're good on that.
Okay, 032 is set.
Raj, with the HSI set for 032, we've told it that we want to be on a course of 32 degrees from that TACAN station. So it will give us steering cues on how to get onto that course, or radial. What we'll see happen is, as we take off, our position in relation to that station is going to change. We'll have to steer the jet around until we position ourselves on a bearing of 032 degrees from it. The big white course arrow will always point to 032, since it's dialed in, but the course deviation indicator, or CDI, will indicate whether we're to the left or right of where we want to be, and to a certain degree, how much. We're kind of lucky today that the winds are not so bad. With not having a crosswind trying to push us off of our desired course of 032, the heading that we're flying in the jet should not differ too much from that. We should be able to fly a heading of or close to 032 and maintain course. Just get the CDI lined up with the course arrow. If the CDI is slightly to the right, it means that you are slightly to the left of where you need to be. Steer to the right and watch for the CDI to line back up with the course arrow. After you've got the CDI and course arrow lined up, then line up the course arrow with the lever line pointing straight up and down. You'll probably have to chase them around a little bit, and that's okay. It is not generally something that you can just line up and forget about. You're going to have to work to maintain your alignment on the radial.
Rajo.
After we're lined up on 032 outbound, the next thing we're looking for on the Mormon Mesa 6 departure is getting to Zinax and transitioning from a 032 outbound radial from Nellis to a 215 inbound radial on the Mormon Mesa VORTAC. Zinax is going to be 12.1 miles out from the Nellis TACAN and on its 032 radial. So, while staying on that 032 outbound, we're going to glance over at the range indicator window on the HSI. Once we see it hit 012, indicating that we're 12 miles out from that TACAN station, we're going to tune into 90 X-ray for Mormon Mesa on the TACAN panel. Then we'll change the course on the HSI from 032 to 035. This should give us steering cues for flying inbound on that 215 radial.
So we're flying 032 outbound from Nellis for 12 miles, then transitioning to a 215 inbound radial off of the Mormon Mesa VORTAC.
Yep, that's correct. I forgot to mention it, but since we're flying inbound on the 215 radial, we're actually setting the course on the HSI for the reciprocal of 215. 215 minus 180 gives us that 035 course. If worse comes to worse, don't forget your steer points in the flight plan for both Zinax and Mormon Mesa VORTAC. Just fly to those steers, and you should be good to go. One more thing on the HSI and radial stuff. Near the center of the HSI and along the intended course line, there are two little white triangles. These are your to from indicators. You'll only see one at a time, and they indicate if you're flying toward or away from the station.
Copy all that. It should be pretty easy, especially with it in the flight plan already.
That's the goal. The approach is going to use the same skills we're doing here with the departure, but we'll be adding ILS to it also. We'll cover the approach after we've done what we needed to with the manual reversion and AR, and when we're ready for recovery.
Cool, man. What's next?
Okay, let's go ahead and get the jet set up for navigating around for today. So first, let's have a look at that Mormon Mesa departure plate. Let me know when you're ready to have a lengthy, thorough discussion about it.
Let's do it.
Alright, so you can see this is a pretty straightforward departure, nothing too fancy, especially considering we'll be using 03 right. Looking at the plate, you can see we're going to be flying the Nellis 032 outbound radial until we're a little over 12 miles out at Zinax. Then we'll transition to intercepting and flying the Mormon Mesa 215 inbound radial towards that VORTAC, which is about another 30 miles. We'll need to be at Angels 19 when we get to Mormon Mesa, unless A-10C tells us otherwise. I'd expect vectors into the range and turn loose from there before we get to Mormon, though.
That looks easy enough.
I didn't think that it'd give you too much trouble. Go ahead and dial Nellis 12 X-ray into the TACAN operation and control panel, then place the mode dial into the transmit receive or TR position. Again, Mormon Mesa VORTAC is going to be 90 X-ray, so when you're getting close to approaching Zinax, go ahead and tune your TACAN into that station and start looking for the intercept on 215 inbound.
Okay, ready to press.
Excellent. Go up to the HSI and get 032 plugged in as our course, since we're going to be flying that 032 radial first. Just remember, change the course on your HSI to 035, which is the reciprocal for 215, when you switch over to the Mormon Mesa VORTAC.
For sure.
Next, going to the NMSP to press the TACAN button to put us into TACAN navigation mode.
Done. I've got the green triangle under TCN.
Perfect, that's what we're looking for. Going back to the right console, let's look at the ILS control panel.
All right, I've got one.
Well, that's good. As you can see, this panel is about as simple as it gets. We've got two radio rotary dials that we'll use to tune the freak, and they have rotating bezels. The left bezel turns it on and off, and the right one controls the volume.
Rogered.
Again, I really don't like to be doing a bunch of shit while I'm trying to fly if possible, so if able, I'll do it while we're on the ground. With that being said, let's go ahead and dial into Nellis ILS on 109.1 and let me know once you've done that.
I've got 109.1 set in the ILS.
Alright, man, go ahead and give clearance a shot when you're ready so we can get out of here.
Roger, stand by. Clearance, Tusk 3.
Tusk 3, clearance, standby 1. 4-2, clearance, cleared to Mormon Mesa via Mormon Mesa 4. Departure as filed. Expect range entry through Ravelli North, climb and maintain Angels 10. Departure on 385.4. Squawk 4011. Swell. Stand by for these jacks.
Clear to Mormon Mesa 3, Mormon Mesa 4, departure. Range entry at Ravelli North, climb and maintain Angels 10. 385.4 for departure, squawk 41. Correction, 401142.
4-2, readback is correct. Good day. Break. Tusk 3, send it.
Tusk 3 is going to be IFR to Sally.
Tusk 3, clearance. You're cleared through Mormon Mesa using the Mormon Mesa 4's departure. Entry through Elgin. Climb and maintain Angels 12. Departure on 385.4. Squawk 4031.
Cleared up to Mormon Mesa via Mormon Mesa 4 departure. Expect entry through Elgin. Climb up and maintain 12,000 feet. Departure 385.4. Squawk 4031 for Tusk.
Tusk 3, that's a good readback. Switch to ground 275.8 at your discretion. Good day.
Ground at 275.8. See ya. Switch ground.
Who's up on 275.8?
Dallas Ground, 42 flight. 2 A-10C is at Thunder with information hotel. Request taxi 03 right.
42 Dallas Ground. Hotel is current taxi. Charlie, Golf, Alpha. Hold short 03 right.
Taxi for 03 right via Charlie, Golf, Alpha, hold short. 42.
Kermit, it looks like both of these guys are over here with me. Hold right there, please. Don't taxi in front of them.
Roger.
Alright, bro. Get us taxi clearance and let's get out of here.
Raj, stand by. Dallas Ground, Tusk 3, 2 ship of A-10s with you at Thunder with hotel looking for taxi to the active.
Tusk 3, Dallas Ground. Taxi in sequence behind 4 for runway 03 right. Charlie, Golf, and Alpha, hold short of 03 right.
Taxi behind Bora via Charlie, Golf, and Alpha. Hold short 03 right, Tusk 3-1.
Go ahead and follow in behind them, and we'll follow them out to the active.
Raj. Are those tornadoes over there on the southern end of the ramp?
Yeah, I think so. There was a French C-130 to the right coming out of Thunder.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, I think they're getting ready for a flag, so units will start trickling in.
So things are going to start getting busy around around here then, huh?
Oh, hell yeah. We got some time, though. I think the Brits are bringing in their Tornadoes, France are going to bring in some Mirages, and the Poles are going to bring some of their Vipers over, too. Usually the foreign nations will show up stateside a ways out to do some other training before the flag. You know, to spin up and get more bang for their buck sending all their people over here.
Pretty good idea. All that because of what's going up in the Persian Gulf?
Yep. I wouldn't be surprised us going over there in a few months from now.
Switch to tower on 327.7.
4-2, switch to the tower.
Tusk 2, correction, Tusk 3. Switch tower 327.7.
Switching to tower, Tusk 3.
2's already on tower.
Tusk 3-1, enter and hold runway 03 right.
Enter and hold runway 03 right for Tusk 3.
For flight, contact departure on 385.4.
4-2, switching to departure. So long.
Tusk 3-1, winds are calm, you are cleared for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, Tusk 3-1.
enter and hold runway 03 right.
Enter and hold, 03 right, Tusk 32.
Flight, contact departure on 385.4.
Switch to departure for Tusk 3, thanks.
I'm switched over already.
Departure, Tusk 3 at, Zinax? En route to Mormon Mesa.
Tusk 3, nose departure, radar contact, continue on the Mormon Mesa departure, climb and maintain Angels 1-8.
Continue on the Mormon Mesa, climb and maintain Angels 1-8 for Tusk 3.
Alright, so if you haven't already done so, dial up 035 on the HSI, set the TACAN for 90 X-ray, and get us lined up with that 215 inbound radial.
Roger.
From here, we're just going to follow whatever the last instruction was until they tell us something different. Tusk 3, Nellis departure. Switch Blackjack at 377.8.
Contact Blackjack at 377.8, Tusk 3. Push Blackjack.
Stand by. Alright, 2 sets.
Blackjack, Tusk 3 with you 10 miles southwest of Mormon Mesa as fragged.
Tusk 3, you all with Elgin and Sally until 1630 local. Caution, tanker traffic to your north is Caliente Charlie and Bravo at Angels 1-8. Advise when transitioning to Caliente, cleared entry through Elgin.
Blackjack, Tusk 3, Elgin Sally until 1630. Tankers to the north of Caliente will advise when we push north for gas and entry approved through Elgin.
Excellent. Reference Gear 3, and let's get after it.
Back in steer point, coming left for steer 3.
Steer 3 is going to be our northeastern marker for Elgin, and Steer 4 will be our southwesternmost point inside of Sally. As long as we stay somewhere in between, we should be okay. We're going to go up in here and get in some practice flying in manual reversion. In any event, I'll be close by and I'll keep us honest and in our assigned airspace. And hopefully, keep you out of trouble.
Sounds reasonable.
Happy to hear that you think so. Alright, go ahead and get us in a hold here in the middle of Elgin at 20,000 feet, and when you're ready, we'll get started.
Let's pick the hold up here, and I'm ready to get started when you're ready.
So, the manual reversion flight control system, or just manual reversion for short, is our last resort when it comes to controlling jet should we lose all hydraulic power. It's going to use cables, pulleys, and rods to give you some control input. You're going to want to transition into, well, you're going to need to get into manual reversion should you lose both of your hydraulic systems, or when a system failure is imminent. Aside from that, we do it in training and during a functional check flight, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think I only did it once before, but that was a long time ago.
You'll be happy to know that nothing's really changed. Bear it in mind, though, that today we're going to be flipping the switch under ideal conditions. If you ever have to use this outside of training or an FCS, it's not going to be ideal. Today is about getting you used to the feeling of flying the jet in manual reversion and some of the warning cautions and notes regarding its application.
Noted.
The first big thing that should be put soft about manual reversion is that you should not attempt the landing unless you cannot punch out or under anything less than the most ideal conditions. It's meant to help you nurse the jet back over friendly lines and not to fly all over God's creation, and not to try and grease the landing.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure you heard about Major Kim Campbell, who managed to pull off a manual reversion landing back in 2003 after being hit by AAA. But you must also be aware of Captain Olson, who in 91 tried to do the same. He died when his aircraft flipped over and exploded on landing.
I've heard both these stories a few times now, but point taken.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever go away. It's ingrained into the Hawk community. It shows a valuable lesson about being too cocky and adhering to the flight manual.
Well, I hope it never comes to that.
Yep, sorry to be a Debbie Downer, but it's one of those things where it's important to get you on the same page. Back to the MRFCS, though. When you go into manual reversion, you'll notice that the force you need to put into the stick to move those control surfaces is going to be much greater since you have no hydraulic pressure helping. You're also going to notice that the jet's going to handle like a pig, pun intended, and that you're not going to have the control authority that you're used to in a normal condition. From the time you place the MRFCS switch into the manual reversion position, you'll have about 10 seconds until the hydraulic pressure bleeds off. You'll get the master caution warning you of this, then you're in manual reversion and you have about 4 seconds before the ailerons load up. Still with me?
Yep, I'm tracking.
Excellent. So aileron float up transition. Yeah. From the time you lose hydraulic pressure, your ailerons are going to start to float up from their powered neutral position. If this were to happen instantaneously, we could see anything from a -2 up to a +6.8 pitch change, depending on CG, airspeed, power settings, etc. Fortunately for us, the good folks at Fairchild Aviation had the sense to put in dampeners in the ailerons to tame this down a bit for us. I guarantee you'll see a pitch change when the ailerons float up, though, so anticipate that.
Okie dokie.
When we command roll through the stick as normal, we're actually driving the trim tabs on the ailerons, which in turn fly the ailerons and give us that bank. Pitch and yaw still function the same, just with more effort. Also, the only thing you're going to be able to trim is pitch. However, the aircraft gets really sensitive to pitch trim input, and it tends to overreact to those inputs. It behooves you to get the jet stable and add in a little bit of trim at a time. Let the jet restabilize, then add more if needed, versus adding a bunch at once, and then trying to fight the nose back up or down when it violently pitches.
Yeah, that don't sound like fun.
No, not
first.
Exactly. One more word of advice. I know as hawk drivers, we're used to some pretty ham-fisted throttle inputs most of the time. Smooth throttle inputs here are very important, as jet will be much more sensitive to it. In other words, if the nose starts to come up, ease back on the power. If it goes down, increase it slowly. Try to ease into those throttle inputs before they're needed so you stay ahead of the jet instead of chasing it.
Understood. Anything else?
Actually, yes. Because you have a strict hard deck on this one, let's quickly go over a very useful tool on your HUD, how to set up an altitude alert. Ready?
Ready.
Okay, press the altitude alert button on the UFC for me. It's located next to the clear and below mark.
Done.
500 AGL floor displayed, which means that Bitch and Betty will start screaming altitude, altitude at you whenever you get below 500 feet AGL. Since our hard deck is 15,000 feet MSL, we'll set it for 16,000 so that we can get the warning and recover without breaking the hard deck. Press the altitude alert button once more or twice until you see 0 MSL floor.
Okay, I can see 0 MSL floor now.
Good. Type 16000 on your scratch pad and then press enter. This should change to 16,000 MSL.
It has indeed.
So now, whenever you get to 16,000 feet, you'll hear Betty and you'll know you're damn close to the hard deck. You better disable the manual reversion and get back up. Oh, if you press it for the third time, you'll be able to set the maximum ceiling in the same manner. So the possibilities there in the hog are rather limited. The biggest thing that I want you to remember before we go into this is that any time getting back into normal flight control operation is one switch press away. If you are having trouble or the jet's getting away from you, flip the manual reversion switch back into the norm position and you'll get your normal controls back. Copy?
If shit goes Tango uniform, the MRFCS switch goes back into normal. Copy.
Solid copy. We're going to be going in and out of manual reversion a few times today. For the first 1 or 2 instances, I want you to focus on just flying straight and level, then maybe try a few shallow turns. Just to recap, today is about getting you familiar and comfortable flying in manual reversion, getting through some simple turns and ensuring you can get the jet turned around and get back to friendly line. When ready, head back to steer 3, make sure you're at Angel 20, and turn southwest towards steer 4. Flip the MRFCS switch into manual reversion, and just focus keeping the jet under control.
Roger. Okay, I'm in position, headed towards steer 4, ready to proceed.
Cool, man, let's do it. Just remember, if it starts getting sketchy, get out of manual reversion and into normal flight control and recover the jet.
Raj, here we go.
All done, Kermit. I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up our lesson on manual reversion. Put her back into normal flight control and let Blackjack know we're done here in Thursday.
Thanks, man. Stand by one. Blackjack Tusk 3, request.
Send it.
Tusk 3 is wrapping things up down here at Elgin, looking to press north for Shell.
Tusk 3 cleared into Caliente Alpha and Bravo. Shell is on station Bulls 015-480. Advise when exiting Elgin.
Cleared into Caliente Alpha and Bravo. We'll notify when we're clear of Elgin. Tusk 3.
I copied all.
Roger.
Alright, we're out of Elgin. Give Blackjack a heads up.
Will do. Blackjack, Tusk 3 is leaving Elgin for the Taker track.
Tusk 3, contact Shell on 141.250.
Shell on 141.250, Tusk 3. Let me know when you're up on that frequency.
I'm up on 141.250 and TACAN 10 X-ray. If you haven't already done so, switch your TACAN freak over to that and put your TACAN into AAREC for air-to-air receive only mode. And lastly, hit the TACAN button on the NMS feed and then head north to the tanker.
Roger.
Talking about some of the other shit we need to configure before we get to Shell. First and foremost, we need to save our weapon system. So, on the AHCP, make sure that Master Arm, Gun Pack, and Laser Arm are all safe. Mav EO off, and all stations in the business deselected. Confirm you've got that taken care of, please.
Stuff is safe or off.
Cool. Next in the pre-contact check, IFS standby. Again, TACAN in AARE. ECM pod in standby. Exterior lights as required. Again, let me know once you've got all that under control.
All that is good.
Good deal. We're going to hold off on opening the slipway door for the time being, but that will be the last thing that we need to do to get the jet configured for AR. But we'll go ahead and do the line check.
Roger.
We'll go through it together, so verify for me that the AR door is closed. One or both engines are above 85% on the core RPM.
All that's good.
To press the AR line check button, 1 to 3 minutes after you press the button, the ready light should illuminate next to the HUD. If your wing tanks are above or around 1,625 pounds of fuel, the light should stay on. If not, 1 to 3 minutes later, the ready light should go off on its own. Go ahead and accomplish this, and let me know if you run into any issues or are good to go.
All right, line check's good.
Excellent. The way this is going to go is as follows. Give Shell a call when we start heading this way, let him know this much. Expect him to clear us into the pre-contact position. We'll slide in behind him a few miles back, and we'll open up the refueling slipway at this time. We're not going to have a ton of smash to catch him up because, well, we're flying A-10. If we catch him in a turn, or he enters the turn while we're trying to reel him in, we can pull a little lead pursuit to close him up a little quicker. We'll give him a call ahead, let him know we're in pre-contact position. With me so far?
Affirm.
After you call pre-contact, he'll clear you into the contact position. From there, you'll creep up, and the boom will take care of the rest. You just have to stay until the contact position until you're full. You take on however much fuel you need, or however much they have available for offload. When you finish getting what you need, and you've disconnected, make sure you don't move out of the contact position until you've got visual confirmation that the boom is separated.
Easy enough. It's been some time since I last did this, though, so don't bust my balls too much if it ain't pretty. Also, how close do these folks want me to be before I make that pre-contact call?
No problem. I expect you to get discode and have to make a few attempts at it. Just be calm, patient, and know when to reset. And they like you to be pretty damn close for that ready pre-contact call. Not Thunderbirds close, but like we can almost play. Always. First and foremost, get into that pre-contact position and trim. If they're stable, get that 0 rate of closure, trim the jet and see which way it goes. Trim it some more, see if it's still stable. If you're not trimmed, you're going to be fighting the jet to stay in a position that it don't want to be in the entire time you're on the boom.
So, should I be trimming?
Maybe. Lastly, if things aren't looking right or you're struggling, back off into the pre-contact position. Stabilize, take a breather, and re-attack when you've calmed down. Go ahead and get us heading towards the tanker, then give Shell a call and let them know when you're heading their way.
Raj.
Shell 1-1, Tusk 3-1, request rejoin.
Tusk 3-1, Shell 1-1, proceed to pre-contact at 19,000 at 200.
Cool. Just go ahead and keep heading for them. Every now and then pump the TACAN into transmit receive and get a range on him just to see where we're at. Once you get inside of 20 miles, start looking for him. The 135 is pretty large and some of the bros can spot it that far out pretty easily on a clear day.
Will do.
As you remember, I'm sure, with the boom plugging in right in front of us, it does a pretty good job of blocking our view of the indexer lights on the tanker's belly. It should not be too much of a problem to see one side of the lights or the other, but not both at the same time. The next step from here is going to be you pulling into the pre-contact position. You'll want to get the jet stable, trim it out, then give Shell a call for contact. When he clears you in, very slowly, like 2 or 3 knots of overtake, pull into the contact position and stabilize. Once you're close and stable, the boom operator will fly the boom to you. Don't go chasing it around. Just focus on staying in that same relative position on the tanker.
Roger.
AR in many ways is a lot like flying fingertip form. Very small control inputs are required to maintain your position. One common mistake is that folks tend to have a death grip on the stick. Try holding it between 3 fingers instead of with your whole hand. Some dudes will even set the throttles close to where they need to be, then make any corrections with one throttle instead of both. Another thing that catches people out is when they make control inputs, they make inputs that are way too large, and they don't wait for them to take effect before making another input. If you see that you're falling away from the tanker, pull the stick aft slightly. Wait a half a second or so, and go from there. Also, realize that every correction that you make actually requires 3 individual inputs.
What do you mean by that?
Well, going with our example of being a bit low on the boom and needing to come up, you're going to obviously pull back on the stick to start heading up. Then you'll need to press the stick forward to arrest that upward movement before you fly into the tank itself. Lastly, you'll need to pull the stick back just a slight bit to stop the downward movement of the nose and set the desired attitude.
Gotcha.
Maybe the up-down was not a perfect example. You probably need to add a touch of throttle in with that example to make up for the speed you lose pulling the nose up, but you get the point. Alright, we're getting a little closer to the tanker. Go ahead and get into pre-contact, get the jet stable and trimmed. After you've done that, give Shell a shout and let them know you're ready to contact.
Roger.
What we want to hear is Shell letting you know that you're taking fuel. Get on the boom and grab as much fuel as you can. If you're up to it, practice a few connects.
Okay, here we go.
Good luck. Let me know when you're done and we'll head back for recovery.
ready pre-contact.
Cleared contact. Contact. You're taking fuel. Contact. You're taking fuel. contact. You're taking fuel. Transfer complete. Disconnect.
Alright, I've had enough fun on the boom for one day. I'm ready to head back if you are.
Sounds good, man. If you haven't done so already, let Shell know we're done taking fuel and we're heading off.
Yeah, they know we're done.
Right on. Hit up Blackjack and let them know we're heading to Mormon Mesa for recovery.
Okay, stand by. Blackjack, Tusk 3.
Tusk 3, go ahead.
Tusk 3 is leaving Shell at 641 Alpha, looking for recovery back to Nellis.
Tusk 3, climb and maintain Angels 19, fly direct for Mormon Mesa. Contact approach on 291.725.
Climb and maintain Angels 19 and direct for Mormon Mesa. Contact approach for Tusk 3.
Switching and there. Let's continue to Mormon Mesa for recovery.
Roger. Tusk 3. Tusk 3, approach, go. Tusk 3 is exiting the range for Mormon Mesa.
Tusk 3, maintain Angels 19, fly direct from the Mormon Mesa vortex.
Maintain Angels 19, proceed direct for Mormon Mesa, Tusk 3.
Just in case you need a reminder, Mormon Mesa is on TACAN channel 90 X-ray. Get that plugged in and navigate us that way. Make sure you close the slipway door. If you haven't, the fuel management system's not going to work. Also, you're going to see the ready light illuminate for around 3 minutes. This is the automatic fuel purge cycle, doing its thing, and it's normal.
Got it. 90 X-ray and air refuel control lever is in the closed position. Thanks.
So, more than likely what will happen is we'll head over the vortex and pick up a hold around there. The approach will clear us off of that orbit one at a time and get us over to the initial approach fix, which is called Chris. From here, we'll pick up and fly the ILS approach, making sure we're on the localizer and glide slope, and with the jet configured for landing at velocity, which is our final approach fix. From there, we'll continue the approach, and if we don't have the runway visually by the time we reach our missed approach point, which is set speed or Steer 11, we'll go ahead and execute the missed approach procedure and try it again. But hopefully, you'll get her safe on deck on the first try.
Roger. Are we going to follow the missed approach as described on the plate, or do we have another plan?
That's always the plan, but just get the speed brake, gear, and flaps in, establish a good climb at 200 to 220 knots indicated. Continue to fly runway heading until you get that 6.5 mile distance from the CME in the top left corner of the HSI. Once you're 2.5 miles out, start the right-hand climbing turn for a heading of 020. Once you're established heading 020, climbing for 15,000 feet, then call tower and let them know you've gone this approach. Unless there's other traffic on approach or something, they should give you vectors to set back up at that point.
Okay, so if I mess it up, just focus on flying the jet. Lean it up, get it into a stable climb, fly runway heading for until I'm 2.5 miles from the TACAN station, then a climbing right-hand turn for 020. Once established in the climb, looking for 15,000 feet and flying 020, then let tower know that I've gone missed, and they'll get me back on track then. Yeah?
Yep, that's the idea. As we're heading south for the Mormon Mesa vortex, let's take the opportunity to get the jet configured to the ILS approach.
Ready to proceed?
First things first, take a look at the ILS panel and make sure we have 109.1 dialed up.
109.1, check.
Excellent. Actually, let's take a second and have a look at the divert page in the CCU. Press function and 2 on the USD and get us into the nav page. Let me know when you're there.
Looks like I'm in the nav page now. I see divert next to OSB 10.
That's what we want to see. Go ahead and press OSB 10 for me. Once you've done that, we should now be looking at the 5 closest fields to our location.
I'm only seeing 4.
Yeah, sorry, I meant 4, not 5. The numbers before their name are their respective waypoint numbers, and below that we should see its bearing and distance from us. Still on the bottom line, we have our time to go to reach that waypoint if we snap to it right now.
Copy.
The CDU will automatically sort them, starting with the closest one at the top. To have a little closer look, go ahead and press the OSB coordinate key. That will take us to the field information page. Let me know when you're on it.
Okay, looks like I've got that pulled up.
Perfect. So the field info page is not always going to give us all of the applicable information for that field, and every airfield may not have TACAN or ILS. Going through the info we have on that page, we can see the field name at the top and its corresponding waypoint numbers repeated again. It also tells us field elevation, then tells us the runway numbers and length in feet. Next we'll have freaks for the ILS, TACAN, approach, and towers.
Pretty nifty.
Also pretty handy in emergency when you need to get the jet on the ground quick. So back to our cockpit checks. Get the ILS panel set for 109.1. Depress the ILS button on the NMSP ahead of the control column. Check that the pitch and roll bars are unsewed by ensuring that the bar switch on the NMSP is in the able position. And maybe turn up the cockpit lighting on the right console. When you get in that cloud layer, it's bound to get pretty dark.
Roger.
So, once you're on the approach, you should see the localizer needle in the ADI come alive quite far out. You expect to see it start moving around 38 to 40 miles. By the time you hit crest, you should definitely have the localizer bars. The glide slope bar will come alive once you get closer to the field. I like to use the TACAN to get me close to the localizer, then move my focus to the localizer bar once I'm close to being on course.
So at Chris, expect to only have the localizer, but by the time I hit my final approach fix at ROTC, I should have my glide slope bar also, yeah?
Yep, that's correct. What I do is the steer point page pulled up on a MFCD and make sure I'm at the altitude for each waypoint well before I hit it. That way, when I do get the glide slope, I'm already below it and I can watch it fall to me, then pick it up, versus being above it and chasing it down, which can get a little dicey.
That sounds like a pretty good idea.
Yep. Of course, your ILS bars in the ADI will be your primary reference for flying the approach, but you can certainly use TACAN and waypoints to help you get there and as a means of double checking everything. Use the tools you got, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
For sure. Make it easier on myself.
Exactly. Alright, bro. Approach will probably be hitting you up in just a few minutes, so I'll shut up and let you do your thing. I'll see you on the ground. Good luck.
Thank you kindly.
Tusk 3-1, Nellis approach.
Approach, Tusk 3-1, go ahead.
Tusk 3-1, approach. Descend and maintain Angels 9, fly 240 outbound radial. Expect vectors for ILS runway 21 left.
Descend and maintain Angels 9, 240 outbound. Vectors for 21 left for Tusk 3-1.
See ya.
Adios, amigo.
Altitude, altitude.
Tusk 3-1 approach. Turn left for Nellis. Inbound 030. Contact Nellis Tower 327.7.
Come left for the Nellis 030 inbound and contact tower for Tusk 3-1. Nellis Tower, Tusk 3-1 with you, inbound on the ILS for 2-1 left.
Tusk 3-1, Tower, radar contact, continue your approach and report at Chris.
Continue the approach and report at Chris, Tusk 3-1. Tusk 3-1 passing Chris at 9,000 feet.
Tusk 3-1, tower, descend and maintain 5,000 feet. Continue your approach.
Continue the approach, descend and maintain 5,000 and report ROTC for Tusk 3-1. Tusk 3-1 is passing ROTC.
Tusk 3-1, tower, winds calm. Check gear down, cleared to land, runway 21 left.
Gear down, clear to land, 21 left, Tusk 3-1.
Altitude, altitude.
Contact ground, Tusk 3-1. Ground, Tusk 3-1, exiting 2-1 left at Alpha, looking for taxi back to Thunder.
Tusk 3-1, ground. Welcome back, taxi. Alpha, Golf, Charlie for Thunder.
Alpha, Golf, and Charlie, Tusk 3-1.
Okay, dude, go ahead and get to the parking spot and shut down your jet. I'll see you at the debrief, okay?
Yeah, sure. Be careful on the approach, man. You really can't see shit.
Talk to you later.